This is an interview by Roland Matthies of Ralph Wells, longtime Kiwanian, longtime citizen of this community, and we're going to talk about the business of pianos in Springfield and Clark County. The interview is being conducted on October 1, 1998, just prior to Ralph's departure from the city for a new location in Maine, and which we much regret, but which we wish him much happiness. Ralph, tell us about yourself.
Well, I was born within the sight of a piano factory. My father was superintendent at the Jesse French Piano Factory. Now, how he happened to become a piano tuner, I never did know. I'm not sure he did. But I used to, as a kid, people would say, my dad would be tuning the piano in the school system, at the high school. They'd say, you going to be a piano tuner like your father? I said, that's the last thing I'd ever do for a living. Ping, ping, no way. So, things were kind of tough. I wanted to be a geologist. I went to college for it, only get 2 years. And I ran out of money, didn't get to finish out in the West. So I came back home like a whipped dog. And Dad said, I don't suppose you'd want to learn to be a piano tuner. And I said, well, I don't know. Had to do something. He says, I won't teach you, but I'll help the finances. So they sent me to Boston, Massachusetts, to a subsidy of New England Conservatory. They had a piano tuning school, so I spent 1 year there and learned to be a piano tuner.
When was this?
This was in 1936. I went to Wittenberg, 34 and 35, and then 36, I went off to Boston. And I still didn't think I was going to be my profession. I was just going to use it to get to something else. But I got so interested in it, and much to my surprise, I liked it. My dad had 3 cousins. One cousin and 3 cousins, that's it, that he taught piano tuning, but he would not teach me. He said, I don't believe in a father trying to teach a son. So I'll help you if you'll go to Boston, the school he went to, and learn piano tuning. As I say, it was a year course. Still wasn't going to do it for a living. I came back, and I got a job down south with a piano company. I tuned for them. They owned 6 stores around. I kept liking it more and more. So when I moved back to my hometown after the war, I went freelance tuning, and I ended up with the schools in Wittenberg and all that he had. So all of a sudden realized I liked doing it, really did. And I still like doing it in a small way. But as far as the piano factory here in town, I was born in Newcastle, Indiana, and my dad was superintendent at Jesse French Piano Factory. They wanted to open up a piano factory someplace else. They chose Springfield because there were, at that time, 3 piano plate factories here. There was Kelly, which is still in existence, Wickham, which went out not so long ago, and there was another one called Fairbanks, went out a long time ago. So that's the reason they built the factory here, because it was cheap. So,
and the name of that factory was what?
Was Lagunda Piano Factory. So when they sent my dad here to be superintendent of it, they asked him to name it whatever he wanted to, so he named it after the section of town he was born in Lagunda, which he told me, I don't know if it's true or not, that Lagunda at that time was separate from Springfield. Did you know that?
I did not.
At least they regarded that in Lagunda. I don't know.
Was the factory right on Lagunda Avenue?
No. The factory was on East Street. They had, and well, he was sent here just a couple of years before. They had the famous East Street shop fire, which at that time was the largest, well, still was one of the largest fires in Springfield. That factory building was considered the second largest wooden conglomerate of small factories to one in Germany. And I think it only lasted a couple of years when they had the East Street shop fire. And it destroyed the whole works. So my dad was recalled back to Newcastle, and he took over back there. And
you mean the piano factory got consumed with that
yeah,
fire?
Yeah, the Gunda Piano Factory, they made pianos for about a couple of years, and there's some here in town.
Uprights?
Uprights, grands, and he named them the Gunda pianos. Now, after the factory burnt down over here in Springfield, they continued making Lagunda pianos for a while with that name at the Jesse French Piano Factory. Well, it was a very large piano factory. They made what you call middle of the class of pianos. They were good. So I swore that's something I'd never do. And after working, I worked down in Alabama for a while for a piano company chain. And then when the war broke out, after the war, I returned to Springfield. Glad to get back. Still my hometown. And I did the work that my dad did, the college, Central State, Wittenberg, all the school system, and I kept busy and always have. And then I more or less retired just a couple of years ago. And it's something that surprised me. I never thought I'd like it. I hear my dad flung, and I think that's no way. And much to my amazement, I liked it very much. Mm-hmm. It just shows you what you think you're going to. And I've always been glad that things turned out the way they did, that I didn't go into geology. I did go into piano tuning, and it's becoming a rare art now.
Did you do replacement of pads and that sort of thing?
I did completely overhauled pianos. Mm-hmm. I learned it up there, and then I learned it from working with my father. And of course now they're all coming out with electronic instruments, but they're still making the old-fashioned piano. Yeah. But I predict in the future years now, a lot of people say to me, I can't tell the difference between an electronic piano and a regular piano. I say, well, I can from the first note. Of course, I work with it. But I think eventually the generation that are used to hearing the old-fashioned piano, the next generation will start thinking, well, I can't tell the difference. And I predict that one of these days, they may not make the old-fashioned piano. Everything will be electronic, like everything else. I've said that to a few tuners, and they say, you're crazy. I said, well, maybe I am.
Now, you said that there is still one company making plates?
Right here in Springfield. The only plate manufacturer in the United States is the Kelly Piano Plate.
And they're still at it?
They're still at it. And, of course, Baldwin Piano Company, though they moved from Cincinnati to, I believe, Mississippi, or one of those states, and they're still making pianos. But
in other words, we're shipping plates from here down to Alabama?
We're shipping them all over the country, wherever they're making any pianos. Well, I don't know where the piano factories are anymore. I don't know if there's one in Chicago now or not, but there's Baldwin, there's Steinway, and they have a Yamaha has a factory here now under the name of Yamaha. And
how about that German one that we have at Wittenberg?
Let's see, that's a
Bosendorfer?
Well, of course, that's all. They make that here now, and they no doubt get their plates from the Kelly Plate Factory, I would guess, because that's the only place they would. They wouldn't ship them over from Germany.
I understood that piano was marketed at $85,000, but Mrs. Sutton, who gave it to Wittenberg, got it at half price because she was giving it to an educational institution. It's a marvelous piano.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but right now, I think Japan is making the best pianos. They're making a Yamaha, and they have several others. And we've kind of gone downhill. Of course, I still think that Steinway and Baldwin make the best grands, make fine grands. But I'm speaking of the spinets and so forth.
Mhm.
And Germany, of course, still turns out wonderful pianos. I don't know too much about them anymore. They did. As far as used to, our pianists here, when they made them, they had to buy all their piano wire from Germany for their top pianos, because ours wasn't as good. Now, they say our piano wire made over here is just as good as any piano wire anywhere.
Did you replace piano wire?
Oh, yeah, restrung, did all you had to do on it.
Hmm.
But now I just tune them now and then.
Mhm.
Like free of charge down at the El United in my church. And we'll do that in Maine.
Yeah. I understand that we have at the Historical Society one of these Lagonda pianos. Is that your understanding?
Yes, I haven't seen it, but I'm going to see it today.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Flass is going to take me. That's interesting, too. When Dad was sent to Springfield, he was told he could name the piano himself. So he took the name Lagonda. He was born right at the top of Belmont Hill, right next to the old school.
What was his name?
Ralph Neal Wells. Now it's Ralph Templin was.
Mm-hmm.
And Templins were a lot of, they were the family here in the Wells, but they all died out both sides.
Temple?
Templin.
Templin.
Templin's drugstore.
Spell it.
Templin.
Uh-huh.
And they're all gone. And just I don't have any relatives here at all anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But Springfield is my town. Anybody asks me where I'm from Springfield. Even if I was born in Newcastle, Indiana, shadow of a piano factory. But I was 4 years old when they moved here.
Yeah.
When that factory burned down, my dad came on to back to Springfield.
Now, to get back to the exact location of the factory, was it physically inside of the east shops?
That's what I understand. I don't know what the other factories were. I never knew. I had been told, but I don't remember. But one of probably the biggest unit, I think, was the Lagonda Piano Factory in the East Street shops. That's what was known as.
Yeah. Now, that's about where the James Leffel plant is now?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I never thought of it.
Right off of East Street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I was told that. I'm glad you reminded me.
Uh-huh. And, of course, that building's a wreck, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would have been born in Springfield instead of Newcastle. They tell me if that factory hadn't burnt down here.
Uh-huh.
Or rather, yeah.
Now, wasn't Ed Juergens in the same business with you?
Yeah, he was a piano tuner. Yeah.
He's not around anymore.
He passed away just a short time ago.
Now, who's left to follow you?
I don't know. There is one fella come over from Kettering that does it, by the name of Harris. He still does it around here. I've been throwing my work to him. But as far as in Springfield, I don't know. There's a few young fellas I don't know.
Now, where you got your training in the East, is that training still available?
No, they finally did away at New England Conservatory. They did away with the piano tuning and repair department. There was only 3 of them at one time. It was that one in New England Conservatory. There was one in Chicago, and there was one out west. And I think there still is one in Chicago, but I don't know too much about it. But,
Would you guess as to how many pianos there are in Springfield today?
well, quite a few. Let's see, we have a population of 85,000, isn't that right?
About 75,000.
75, that's right. About 75,000. It used to be everybody had a piano in their home, and it's not true anymore. A few electronic pianos go in the homes, but very few. They just don't buy the old-fashioned kind unless they're getting a grand. And they'll still get a grand. Grand still got it over any electronic piano.
You bet.
And so they would be the only ones that sold here. But I don't know how busy Kelly is. They're still busy, I understand. I used to know the Kelly family. I had some fun one time. I was tuning Wickham's piano one time, and I had to make an adjustment on the pedal. So, knowing that he did have a good sense of humor, at least I hope, I said, I can understand, Mr. Wickham. You got your own Wickham piano here, and you got a Kelly plate in it. What? He got down on the floor and looked, and he says, hey, you're kidding me. That's a Kelly plate. But Fairbanks Piano Plate Company, I don't know too much about it. It went out long before I came here, years ago.
Why do you think Wickham went out of business? Lack of interest or lack of trade?
Lack of making the old-fashioned piano, the mechanism type piano that used the plate. The plate is the backbone of it. It's all the weight. And
what's it made out of?
Made out of pig iron. And he tried to use other things too, but it didn't work. So iron plates are the only thing in the regular.
And they're cast, aren't they?
They're cast iron. And I guess Kelly's still doing it. I used to go there once in a while, and I don't know how busy they are, but of course Wickham is busy too, but I guess it got down to the factories are only buying Kelly's, so that Wickham went out. Kelly's, well, had the reputation of having the finest piano plates in the country. Of course, Wickham would say otherwise.
Do you know whether Kelly is still a family business?
I don't think it is. The Kelly family down in Yellow Springs was part of that family, O.S. Kelly, and the one in Yellow Springs, who I knew him pretty well, he used to do their piano, and so did my father. Whitehall, up off of Yellow Springs, that big,
Yeah.
I think, well, his daughter, O.S.'s daughter, inherited that, and Mrs. Rankin, and she has passed away, so I don't know who lives in that house. But that's the old Kelly home.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
There were other Kellys here, too, that were related. I know brothers, I guess, or something. Too much about it. I knew old Mr. Kelly. He was great. He was a millionaire. And when I used to go down there, my dad tuned the piano down there. He'd always take me down there. And old Mr. Kelly would take me out into his barn and show me his prize cattle. He introduced the Aberdeen Angus cattle, and they still have them down in that area, to this area. And he was just a common, ordinary guy. He just liked people. And
do you know whether he started the business?
it started way back before him. It'd be his father, probably. It started. I don't know just when it started. Let's see. That factory burnt down in 1903, I think. Is that right? Or was it founded in 03? I think it burnt down in 1903. That didn't sound right. It must have. 03 comes in there someplace. That's when the East Street Chops fire was.
Oh.
That's it. That's when I got it right now. That's when the Lagunda Piano Factory went out of existence in 1903. That's when that East Street Chop fire was. Now I got it straight.
Mm-hmm. But Kelly was not in that location at all.
You mean down?
Yeah. Kelly was right here all the time, weren't they? Right downtown here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I imagine at one time they had a lot of employees.
Yes, they did. I think they were the biggest. I'm positive they were the biggest. They definitely had a reputation of putting out the finest piano plates made. And
now tell us something about where you're going.
well, I always said if I were retired, I want to live on a lake. Didn't know just where the lake was going to be, but being I'm married into a Maine family, the lake is in Maine. We've already bought the house. It's got a 100-foot frontage. It's on a lake, and I don't fish. Any of you want to come up and fish, you can sit right on my deck there and fish. I don't eat them and I don't catch them.
You don't eat them?
No.
Oh, my.
So we bought last year we bought an 8-room house, same as the size of the one we have. And we had a chance to get it very reasonable because the lady was anxious to sell it. A lot of property all over, including Springfield, is for sale right now, and prices have gone down. So it's a nice house, and I'm going to fulfill my dream. I'm going to sit on a lake. I told the lady that sold us the house, she says, I understand you're a piano tuner, yeah. Oh, they'll be glad to hear that around here. I said, keep that a secret. I like to do it. I enjoyed doing it.
How old are you now?
80. I'll be 84 in November.
Mm-hmm. That's great to have a new venture.
It is. A lot of people probably think I'm crazy. I was brought up in this town and moved here when I was 4. It's my town. I've always liked Springfield. I still do. And when somebody starts running it down, I says, you know, you can always move.
Yeah.
And I do feel that way. Yeah. You weren't born here. You were born
in Indiana.
Indiana. Mm-hmm. I was born in Newcastle. So
yeah.
you're a Hoosier.
I was born in Hammond.
No, Hammond, Indiana.
Yeah.
All my family were born right here, way back. I understand that they came over from Wales and settled in Virginia. And they moved up. Why to Springfield, I don't know. But the first ones went to work for International Harvester. You know that. And I never did know how my dad got into piano tuning. He wasn't a musician. I'm not a musician. Mm-hmm. My dad's 3 uncles worked for Baldwin Piano Company. He taught them, but he wouldn't teach me. They were not musicians. Couldn't play the piano. I can't play the piano. I got 4 kids at all. They had to learn to play the piano. When they got to be 8, I said, look, I wouldn't learn. I didn't want to, and my dad didn't make me, but you kids are going to learn to play the piano. So they all took lessons, and they all played the piano. Dad told somebody, says, hey, I'm surprised you learned to play the piano. I said, Dad, being a piano tuner, made me.
What is the name of your wife?
Jane.
Jane. And what
she was known as Jane from Maine.
Oh, yeah.
My first wife was born and reared in Maine, and I met her when I was going to school in Boston. She was a nurse in a big hospital, Brigham in Boston, from a Maine family. It goes way back.
Oh,
and
I see.
She went there. She graduated from the University of Maine. Her family insisted that they all been teachers, and she was going to be a teacher. So she did what her dad said, who ruled the roost. And he said, if you graduate there and still want to become a nurse, all right. She taught 2 weeks, quit, and went in nurses training. And of all places, I had written my mother, didn't have to worry about me running around, didn't have money to do it. Plus the fact that I wasn't interested in girls. That was a very bad thing to say. I met her of all places in the YMCA. I went in the YMCA to hear this orchestra was playing for a dance, and this redhead was standing across the hall. And I never figured out what happened, but we were married in New Mexico.
In New Mexico? Yeah, how'd you get down there?
Well, I had a chance for a job down there, tuning for this store down there. They were kind of scarce even back then. So
what year?
That'd be 1935. And wait a minute, be 36 because it was after I left Wittenberg. Mm-hmm. And in that vicinity, let's see, I went that year at 37. I get it right.
So your first wife and your second wife were friends?
My first wife and my third wife. My first wife and third wife are first cousins from Maine, and my second wife, who was a teacher here in town. My first wife died unexpectedly in Germany. We were over there visiting my son, who was a translator for the government, a Russian translator, translated for Russia over there. So he and his wife were over there. We went over to see him. When we left, the doctor said, you two are in fine shape. Go in and join yourself. She got pancreatitis and died in 9 days. I came back with. So I married again. Very happy marriage. and she died about 4 years ago. And I have a happy marriage now, so I'm one of the few guys I know who's had 3 marriages and all happy.
Mighty fortunate.
With no divorces.
Mighty fortunate, I'd say.
My kids have been divorced.
Have they?
Yeah, oh yeah.
How many kids you have?
I have 3 girls and a boy, and I have 3 stepdaughters. And they've quite a few divorces amongst them all.
Yep, that's about half of them now.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
One of them married 36 years and called me up one night. And she says, Dad, Dave and I are getting a divorce. I didn't say why. I figured, I was shocked. I found out later on that I knew he was sort of domineering. And she just got tired of it, and they had an agreement divorce. She's married again. Then my second daughter, she just got divorced a short time ago. They've been married about 12 years. And my other daughter, she's very happily married and everything. Boy, this younger generation, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, Ralph, I'm coming to the end of the tape. It's been a very interesting interview.
Well, thank you.
And I certainly wish you good health, and God bless you.
Well, thank you.
Now, Ralph, I thought I'd finished interviewing you, and we're going to start again. You were starting to tell me something about your granddad.
Well, he, as I say, he was born and reared in Lagunda, too, and his parents before him. So they go back into that area, and they came up from Virginia. But he came down, when my dad moved down to Virginia, he moved down to North Virginia, and he went in business for himself. That's when I was 10 years old.
And what was his name?
Ralph Nealwell. And he and another guy opened up a piano rebuilding factory, or whatever you want to call it. They did it themselves. And then the Depression hit, and they lost their shirts. So they came back to Springfield. But my grandmother came down from Springfield. Of course, they were born out in Lagunda. And furthest they'd ever been out of Springfield was Indiana. And when he came out there, he was supposed to spend the summer out. He retired from the International. And he was there about a week. And one day he looked at his watch and said, well, Molly, we better be getting back to Springfield. It was cute.
Now tell us about his retirement.
Well, as I say, his name is Frank R. Wells, and he was the first man to ever be pensioned from the International Harvester. And so he lived here the rest of his life. I don't know how old he was when that happened or not. Probably have it in record someplace, I don't know.
And they gave him
a gold watch. Great big gold watch with a thing on for your vest.
Yeah.
And Grandpa, I don't care if it was 80 or 90 degrees, he never took the vest off. He always wore his suit, vest, and that gold watch.
Yeah.
No, he was little white goatee.
Yeah.
Easy going. Everybody said that he was so easy going. And so things didn't bother him or anything. If the house caught on fire and he was upstairs shaving, he'd finish shaving, put his shirt on, and slowly walk out of the house. And I've been told that I'm the same way. You wouldn't believe it, would you?
No, I wouldn't.
They'd say, Ralph, you're the same way as your grandpa.
Yeah.
Slow, easy going.
Well, that's an interesting side story.